The famous angel. A famous pub mentioned and frequented by Samuel Pepys, who described it in his diary as the famous angel, a pub long famous even in his day. Captain Christopher Jones of the Mayflower, who took the Pilgrim Fathers over to America, is said to have hired crew at the Old Angel, and Captain Cook prepared for his voyage to Australia from the old pub too. Legend has it that Judge Jeffreys, the hanging judge, would go here to watch the hangings over at Execution Dock. It's been a popular location for celebrities over the years. The exterior features in an uncompleted Alfred Hitchcock film in 1922 called Number 13, also known as Mrs. Peabody. That footage is now lost and only one picture survives, which you'll see at the end of this. Plus Laurel and Hardy visited here, and it has links to the Richardsons. The Old Angel originally ran diagonally along the side of the moat of King Edward III's manor house. You'll see an image of that. Come 1830s, the Industrial Revolution was really getting going, and this area was kicking off, and a lot of the old medieval and Tudor buildings, they were taken down and replaced for bigger warehouses that could accommodate bigger ships and things like that. And that's when this pub was replaced. When it was rebuilt in the 1830s, it was originally a 3-storey gin palace, badly damaged in the Second World War, beautifully restored inside. But before we go into the pub, Dr. Salter's Daydream, which is located just over here, which is really interesting and quite moving. There's some beautiful statues. I'll show you the statues first. Here is Dr. Salter. His wife. When we say pioneering woman, this lady is the real epitome of pioneering women. She hit a couple of firsts in her day, and she's shown with a shovel for a reason, as we'll discover in a minute. Their daughter. Now this is where it gets sad, as we'll discover in the story in a minute. Dr. Salter's Daydream by Diane Galvin, 1991, for London Docklands. And the cat. And Dr. Salter sits in old age contemplating his late wife and his lost daughter and their cat. And I love that there's a cat with the London skyline in the background, because it always makes me think of Dick Whittington, the Mayor of London, and his cat. But now we'll cover the full story. Dr. Salter's Daydream. One was a youth worker whose social clubs transformed the lives of Bermondsey's toughest working girls. The other was a doctor who treated his poorest patients without charge. Together they overcame personal tragedy to lead a revolution. Ada and Alfred Salter were legendary and beloved figures in Bermondsey. They were also famous nationally, and each has a separate entry in the Dictionary of National Biography. Here is the couple themselves. Alfred Brown, 1866 to 1942, was born in Northamptonshire at 30. Ada Brown, I beg your pardon. Ada Brown, 1866 to 1942, was born in Northamptonshire. Let's adjust my glasses, that's better. Northamptonshire. At 30, she left her well-off home in Raunds to do social work in London slums as a Methodist sister of the people. Alfred Salter, 1873 to 1945. He was born in Greenwich and reckoned the most brilliant student Guy's Hospital ever produced. He was a bacteriologist with a great career ahead of him, when in 1898, also stirred by a social conscience, he arrived at Bermondsey, settlement where Ada was working. In 1900, the two married and became Quakers, had a daughter Joyce, were active in the Liberal Party and the then ILP, Independent Labour Party. They dedicated their lives to the impoverished people of Bermondsey and Rotherhithe. Ada's concern for working women led her to election in 1909 as the first woman councillor in Bermondsey and first Labour woman councillor in London. To counter dire conditions in some local factories, Ada recruited women from trades unions. This bore fruit during the Bermondsey Uprising of 1911, when thousands of women went on strike. After Ada organised food supplies for their starving families, she was honoured by the trade union movement in 1914, elected national president of the Women's Labour League. Alfred believed the slums would never improve without political reform and set his sights on becoming MP. However, during World War I, he and Ada, as pacifists, endured fierce hostility, even from stone-throwing mobs, especially after he wrote a pamphlet against the war, acclaimed all over the world. By 1922, now admired for his anti-war principles, he was elected MP for Bermondsey, and except for 1 year remained MP until his death. In the same year, Ada was elected at a time when borough mayors had considerable power, the first woman mayor in London and the first Labour woman mayor in Britain. She and Alfred launched what was later called the Bermondsey Revolution, an experiment in municipal government that attracted attention throughout Europe. Alfred promoted free medical treatment using modern methods, a health centre, a solarium for TB sufferers, and education films about hygiene shown from vans on street corners. By 1935, infant mortality had fallen from 150 to 69 per year, and not one mother died in childbirth. This was his NHS before the NHS. Meanwhile, Ada's beautification committee transformed slums. She planted 900 trees, offered prizes for the best window boxes or gardens, and filled all public spaces with playgrounds, musical events and sports. She was a green before the Greens. The Daily Telegraph said Ada's work was an object lesson in what can be done to beautify even the poorest neighbourhood. In 1931, Ada was elected chair of the National Gardens Guild, and in 1934 was deployed by the LCC, that's the London County Council, to beautify all London and establish London's Green Belt, hence why she's shown with a shovel. The sorters destroyed the worst of Bermondsey's slums. Alfred pushed through vast slum clearance programmes admired all over the country, while Ada was in charge of designing model council houses, still to be seen on Wilson Grove. The Sorters statues. The Sorters' lives were marred by a great personal tragedy. In 1910, their only child, Joyce, aged 8, died from scarlet fever. To win the trust and to avoid privilege, they had chosen to live amidst the disease-ridden slums and have their daughter educated locally, but the cost proved high. Though Joyce's death bonded the Sorters forever with the people of Bermondsey, they were inconsolable. There she is. This is the story of the sculpture Diane Galvin reflects on in this ensemble of statues. Dr. Salter's Daydream. In his old age, Alfred sits imagining Ada Joyce and her cat as they once were in happier days long gone by. Before we go into the famous angel, you will join me just over there. You now join me over there. This building's interesting, and it features in another on foot tour series, which is Walking London's Longest Street. Its full history features in that. If you had an ancestor or relative that was a Thames bargeman between the Victorian era and 1937 working in this patch, it's likely that he would have gone there to get paid. But that will be another story for another set of videos. I take you down these very modern looking stairs for a particular reason. This stone corbelling, what you can see at the bottom there, and the old brick wharf is all the old stuff, but we get some nice views, so join me down there. You now join me down there. And this old stone stuff are the last remains of Redriff stairs. Now I'm walking very carefully here, and the reason I said you join me down here is because this is, rather than filming it, because those stairs and this what I'm walking on is slippery in the extreme. So if you come and visit this one, do be very careful. And like in years gone by, when many people travelled up and down the Thames, we can actually approach the pub and get a good look at it the way Samuel Pepys, King Edward III would have seen this, not this view, but this is the way they would have approached the old pub at Redriff Stairs or King's Stairs, which you will see in the historical segment at the end of this video. I'll walk us down this way, where the crows may land their droppings upon me for a reason. The tide is out now. And even up until the 1950s and 60s even, the old Thames bargemen would have pulled in here, got off and had their drink. And this is the view I wanted to give you. You'll now join me back round the front. See, parts of this are 17th century. You see that? Just looks like an incongruous piece of wood there. That's part of the 17th century jetty. Right, so you'll join me back round the front now then. And you'll join me a bit later on in the day, and in we shall go. Surely you didn't think I would leave you there like that, without seeing this lovely charming pub? That'd just be rude, wouldn't it? Permission visit.
And then it comes on top, mate. You're right bottom flavour. Yeah, that's it.
Cool, everyone's a cog in the wheel. Everyone's a cog in the wheel, mate. Everyone's a cog in the wheel. Everyone thinks they're Charlie Goose.
Well, the only reason Martin got linked for conspiracy to work was because the little boys were going around bragging about what they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone else kept their mouths shut, but they're out there like telling everybody what
I'm a gangster.
Oh, I've been doing this, and then when they got put away for that, they come out and they done it again. Done exactly the same thing again. Very idiots.
What do we need out here, Jess? We need one of these in each stable, don't we?
Yeah, it should all be on the clip. I've done it yesterday.
No, she'll be down here telling us what.
Unless they took it.
I'll do them now. There's no point in me starting the line for so he comes and does that.
Yeah. There should be the takeaway menu, a drinks menu, and a cocktail menu on it. I've done them yesterday. Unless they.
Where do they go? On one on each stable?
Not on inside. They want to go outside. I know that. today, Dave? Free, yeah? Alright, darling. Give me a 5 pound. You alright?
Yeah.
I just forget that day. Oh, read that email.
Amy, did you notice the new doormat, Dave? Ah. My point being, you didn't want the fucking thing when you come in. Right, give me my phone.
It gets better in a minute.
Fucking want me put it in the way out, though. Don't film Dave here, bite you. I'll get sacked for you doing that, you know that.
Don't worry, mate, I won't get you any pictures.
Any winners?
Don't even ask.
No, we've gone south, is it?
Well, winner the other guy. No, I 2 winners and 1 So we're getting a big gun just as you want on this. Yeah, let me show you this while you're here. That's what Oi, oi! Might as well lay me on, girl.
See the Richardson
Might as
gang?
well lay me on.
That man there, he's the
Oh,
father of one of them.
Yeah, of course.
I'll give you that. I'll give you
And he
that.
comes in here and has a pint for his dad every Sunday, I think it is. They frame that picture for him, which I think is a lovely thought.
I can get something.
This is the pub before it was bombed in the war. Only 2 buildings survived that. That's amazing.
I don't need to know.
You're pregnant, babe. What do you expect? You're going to be fat, ain't you? Thanks.
I don't know if you know. I'm going to clean up down here, Jess. Anything, Jessie, my girl.
No, there ain't nothing.
No, real fucking fun.
Hang on.
It's the first time we've been ready to sleep for 12 o'clock for fucking years, girl. We're alright, we?
Yeah, no way.
London pub, this one, so it's a decent one. Oh, pause you a sec.
He said to me this morning that you did something you got
Go up to the lounge, meet Porter, Royal Docks. Favourite historical Londoner, Samuel Pepys. There's room to drink in this pub, the original. This one dates from the 1830s. It was badly damaged in the war, beautifully restored and repaired. Well, that's building of the Blackwall Tunnel, the Rotherhithe Tunnel, beg your pardon. The mirror alert. Literature. The Thames Tunnel. 1836, Saturday, December the 10th, 1836. The Angel is the oldest public houses in Southwark, and certainly the oldest in Rotherhithe. A pub of this name has been recorded since the 17th century, and its origins go back way before that as well. This is the lounge area. This is one of those ones that gift that keeps on giving. This is a digital detox pub, so I was really lucky to be able to take this video and pictures. I asked, of course I always ask consent. Mark Brunel, the architect at the first tunnel under the Thames, and there's a museum for that, and I will be covering that, but it will be on another day when I come back to this area, because I've been very, very lucky so far today. I've already been up to the Mayflower area, you know where the Mayflower Pub is, and won't reveal too much, but we had a good stroke of luck, and so I've come back here. Now I have to wait till about after 12 o'clock, go back up to that end to film the Mayflower Pub, get brilliant views. I got myself a lager shandy. Yeah, they held parties and banquets and all sorts in the tunnel under the Thames. It was an engineering feat of its day. Quite a few men died. And Isambard Kingdom Brunel himself almost died because it burst a couple of times, and the Thames was an open sewer in those days, so if you didn't drown then you might be unlucky enough for the sewage to get you. Samuel Pepys again. He's like Fluff in The House of a Cat Owner of Samuel Pepys. He crops up everywhere. I nearly went. If you want to come and see this balcony area, get here early because people do reserve tables. Tower Bridge. If you want to see Tower Bridge open, type online Tower Bridge lift times and it will tell you when the bridge is going to lift and what ship will go through it. Tonight a paddle steamer will be going through. I already filmed the sailing barge Gladys, so come tonight I am going to be, to put it politely, ducked, because I have not slept last night at all. I've done a filmathon today. This area is just full of history. Here you see a Thames barge being pushed along by a Thames tug. A site that hasn't changed for many years. Once would have been sow, then steam, now diesel and petrol and possibly even electric engines. And this interesting site over here is the Thames River Police headquarters. their boats. Anything happens on the river, off they skedaddle. And Garly Bolu, Gary, if you watch this one, mate, you will be very pleased to learn earlier that an Uber boat went by, belching out smoke, and I mean really belching out smoke. You won't be pleased about that. But quick as a lightning bolt, one of those police boats went out after it. So that was an interesting sight. Yeah, not a bad view, is it, eh? And looking over at the site of old King Edward's Manor House. Hope you all enjoyed this one. Any historical images, though we've seen quite a lot already, will follow at the end of the video. And now for our historical look back of this lovely old and famous London pub. Grade 2 listed, this current pub dates to 1837, and it's believed to incorporate parts of an earlier 17th century building. In the 15th century, an inn or rest house for travellers called Salutation was kept at or near this site by the monks from Bermondsey Priory. In 1682, the Angel was in a position diagonally opposite its present site and was referred to by the famous diarist Samuel Pepys as the famous Angel, and he called it that because in his day it was a pub well famous even then. The former Redriff Stairs used to be located immediately to its west, and you can see here on this 1746 rocks map the King's Stairs and Rotherhithe Stairs have been providing access to the river for many centuries. They were both shown on the 1746 rock map of London, although Rotherhithe Stairs were recorded as Redriff Stairs, Redriff being one of the earlier names for Rotherhithe. And this lovely painting from 1827, 10 years before this lot would be taken down, shows the old Angel, the pub that Samuel Pepys and Captain Christopher Jones of the Mayflower and Captain Cook would well have known and loved. And the reason all this lot was eventually taken down, one, because of dilapidation, but two, because of the Industrial Revolution. As that kicked off, these little wharves and warehouses that you can see on the left, they just weren't big enough to cope anymore. So great areas were swept away, and our pub including it. And you lost an old timber-framed medieval building, and it was replaced with a Victorian one, which we see here. The Angel Public House over to the right, marked with the blue arrow. And you can see from this painting that before the war, it was a 3-storey building. Second World War damage and adaptations have given us the beautiful little 2-storey building that we know today. I like this image, 1890, from the Illustrated London News, and this shows the Angel from the riverfront side. In those days it was very common for the boats to pull up from the riverside, and the men would go in and get their drink that way. You've seen, anyone that's watched my coverage of the prospect, it would be a very similar setup. This is interesting. Number 13, 1922. Alfred Hitchcock's debut as a director on the Gainsborough picture film Number 13, also known as Mrs. Peabody, in 1922. The film was never completed or released, and no known footage still exists. But there is one famous picture of Hitchcock at work directing his first film, and it was taken outside the Angel Pub on Rotherhithe Street. This section has now been renamed to Bermondsey Wall East. And here is that picture, Alfred Hitchcock's uncompleted film of Number 13, aka Mrs. Peabody, 1922, and you can see the angel on the left. Another riverfront image, 1920s. Local legend has it that Judge Jeffreys, the hanging judge, used to come here and watch men die at Execution Dock, which was opposite, and that Captain Cook prepared for his journey to Australia from here. 1920s or 30s for this image, and another riverside one, and you can just see with the Courage Brewery sign, our pub right over to the far right, And this is when the Thames was still a working river. See, all the Thames barges would have been full of lightermen. The Angel, Rotherhithe by Hubert John Williams, 1930. Lovely little drawing this. Circa 1930, and this shows everything that was basically blown away and destroyed in the war. Rotherhithe Street was enormously long, even longer than it is now, and it's 1.5 miles now. It was once much longer, and lined with old buildings and wharves and houses and such like. And you can see the two fellas, one in a trilby and one in a cap, and a little boy just looking over to where Redriff Stairs was. 1949, and from the Riverside again. And you can see that all the buildings, pretty much a lot of them next to it, have gone to the left side. There were still old ones there, and they were taken down in slum clearances and such like. 1951, and a cracking image taken from the foreshore looking right up at the pub. 1960, and you can still see a working river, and look at the old warehouse and dock buildings next to it. And 21 years ago, the Angel before its restoration, and this photo was taken in 2003. June 2013, after its restoration, and that, as I say, gives us the lovely old pub that we know today. And something a little different for my pub tours for you. A 3D model tour, and that's what we shall end with. And that, ladies and gents, concludes our tour of the Angel. I hope you all enjoyed, and thanks for watching.